I'm going to play a clip from ABC Evening News. This is now the third night after the election, 2020 presidential election. I want to show you a technique called concern troll. This is a technique where you're basically patting somebody on the back and saying, you know, you did really great, and it's really great that you're giving up. You're really showing a lot of class. And it's a kind of a creepy technique because you're basically mind controlling the person into giving up. And what makes it really creepy is when you know in your heart certain things never got discussed that should have been discussed before you're literally letting this other person tell you what you think. So in the very first thing that Mr. Muir says is that Martha Raddatz went around the U.S. for months talking to people, right? Now, the election has been in controversy for 3 days. So she's going to refer to comments that were made before we had an election controversy and somehow imply that they happened in the last 3 days when they happened months ago. So they don't really apply to now. So I'm going to play it and listen to the way she tries to pat people on the back for giving up. Even though we have had no discussion about the real controversy about 2020, which is the mailing out of as many as 200 million mail-in ballots, okay, with nothing more than a barcode as a way to kind of prove who the ballot belonged to. As if that couldn't possibly lead to any kind of double votes, wrong people voting, acquiring stashes of votes because there was plenty of time to do that, then filling them out, and then if the race is close, then slipping them into the mail, things like that. In other words, you don't necessarily put them in the mail, but if it turns out you realize you need to put them in the mail because you're already counting the votes from election day, and you have election day deadline, and you realize it's going to be close because you're hearing about it, then you dump them in the mail. Or you just dump them in a couple days before just to be safe, whatever. So you kind of have it available to do, but you don't know for sure if you're going to do it. Now, I will say one final thing before I play the clip. I am surprised that nobody out there either is offering rewards. If you were involved in any kind of a voter fraud or scheme to harvest votes, there's a reward. That's not being offered, which I think is weird. If you want to expose fraud, you would do a reward. Either party could do it. And nobody's doing that. I don't think it's illegal. I think you can offer a bounty or a reward. Somebody comes forward. And the other thing is, we have something in the department, not we, but in business, there are people called secret shoppers. And they'll go into stores and they'll actually check out what's going on in the store. They might try to shoplift. They might try to change the price tag. And then they see if the store catches them or not. Did we have any secret voters this time around? People who were literally sanctioned to double vote so that they wouldn't get arrested, just to see if the system would catch them? Did anybody bother to do this? These are the kind of things I want to know about. I don't just want to know about, we got to count every one of those ballots that showed up at a ballot counting location. That's not the issue. The issue is, in past years, we've had absentee ballot voting where people requested their vote. And then in 2020, we changed it and said everybody's getting a ballot. And that to me is the core issues that nobody's discussing. They just want to finalize the vote, declare Biden the winner, and then let's all come together as a nation. And that's what this is about. It's called concern troll.
Who has traveled this country for the months leading up to this election. And Martha, I know you talked to so many Trump supporters and Biden supporters, all of whom, not all, but many of whom, Martha, you've been telling us, have hoped for some sort of unity on the other side. And I'm curious, with you listening to the former vice president tonight, if you heard in there that effort to get there somehow.
You know, David, they already think, and these are hardcore Trump supporters, what they have heard from Joe Biden is healing. Several of them said to me, I see leadership there.
So they're mixing two, I gotta interrupt, they're mixing two different narratives. They're mixing the narrative of her going around the country for several months with Joe Biden just spoke tonight. What is that telling you? So as you're listening to her, you're going to have to kind of go back and forth in your head and go, well, wait a minute. Everything she's saying now isn't about what Biden said tonight. It's what she allegedly heard while she was on the campaign trail. But people listening are going to assume she's talking about Biden tonight, especially if they're just kind of listening and doing something else at the same time. So it's disingenuous.
I don't like that Donald Trump will likely be defeated, but I like what I'm hearing from Joe Biden.
And by the way, if she was talking about what they were saying the last 2 months, you mean when all the pollsters were lying repeatedly about Trump? She just literally is exposing how people were being psychologically discouraged from thinking Trump could win. And when you're psychologically discouraged, you're not even going to, talk it up with your friends or other people who are on the fence because you almost feel embarrassed. So she's literally giving out information about how the incorrect polling over the last couple of months was influencing Trump supporters.
A woman named Arthur Schoenberg, who is in Ohio, absolutely ardent Trump supporter. You couldn't tell her anything about Trump or challenge her in any way on anything he did. He is perfect. She said she's been impressed by Biden's tone, his calls for unity, his mild manner, but she did express deep animosity towards Democrats. So I think that's what she's going to be watching. But she also, Donald Trump, she said he needs to back off and focus his attention on what he can do as a citizen to improve the country.
So Biden just spoke a couple hours ago. But you're talking about stuff from before. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I don't understand what they're... But it's being a concern troll.
So I have seen a lot of grace among these Trump supporters and a lot of just saying, you know what? We've been defeated. We have to move on. So
that's concern troll right there. That's it. That's what it is. So as I said earlier on, certain issues never got discussed. We never, first of all, revealed the real controversy, why Trump was so concerned. He was concerned about 200 million ballots being mailed out to everybody when as many as 50% didn't want the mail-in ballot. They didn't want it. It got sent to them anyway. It doesn't address the issue of if you in a year of the pandemic, people may have moved for a variety of reasons. Well, they got mail-in ballots at whatever address they lived at in 2020 and maybe even 2019. So same person could have gotten 2 or 3 ballots sent to different locations. It doesn't address if somebody else actually gets the ballot, opens it up, fills it out, signs it with their name, with the other person's name, if exactly they're really going to catch that person or not. Because I can tell you from my own personal experience, when I went to vote, the electronic pen they gave me to sign, because I showed them my mail-in ballot, and I just explained I want to look at it when I vote, but I'm going to go into and I want to vote electronically. So they said, well, we want to invalidate your ballot. So it took me bringing it in and then signing for them to invalidate my mail-in ballot. Well, I almost didn't even bring the ballot in. I did because I wanted to reference it, but if I hadn't, I'd still have my ballot on voting day not invalidated. So what would it, now if I wasn't going to experiment and mail it in because I lose either way. If I send it in and I electronically vote also, I've double voted. If I get caught, I'll get charged with some kind of crime. If I don't get caught, I can't tell anybody because then I will get caught. So either way, it's kind of scammy how the system is set up for mail-in votes to where they've created a system where for people who care, they're not going to double vote. But people who don't care might double vote. They might, and we saw that. Anyone who's going to destroy buildings during a riot doesn't care as much as those who freak out over stuff like that. The news made it sound like they did, but the fires, the looting, that was all BS. And Biden, what did Biden do then? Did he go into any of these cities where the violence was going on and say, please, we have to stop the violence? No, he didn't do that.
So that gives people hope. That gives people on the Biden side, when they hear that people on the Trump side are saying that, perhaps they pull people in a little more as well. Obviously, there are people who are never going to accept this. There are probably people who are going to go to ground. But there is hope when you hear comments like that, that they are actually listening to Joe Biden. They are not tuning him out. They, too, want to share this space that is America.
My God, that is, oh God, that is concern troll in a nutshell right there. That's what a concern troll does. It's literally hypnotizing people by saying, you did great, now give up. You are wonderful, now give up. I'm in awe of you, now give up. That's what a concern troll is. And this is an example of it.